It's easy to think just about ourselves as teachers, educators, when thinking about pedagogy. That we tend to think, well, what's going to work for us? But the other big question clearly is, what about our students? What are students going to get from using a simulation? For this, again, I think it goes back to the notion of engagement. Simulations are intrinsically about active learning. They're focused on the student. They're not focused on you as the instructor. At one level, you are sitting to one side of the room, you are making notes, but you're not telling them what to do. Instead, you're saying, here's a problem, here's a scenario, here's a situation. You go and explore that with each other in a way that lets you build your understanding, build your skills, in some cases build your confidence to use that knowledge and skill in a way that is rather different. And I think that's a really important point about simulations. While simulations are more and more common, they're still relatively exceptional, that they're not the standard way of doing things. So a simulation for a student is a novel experience. Here's a different way of doing things. It's not, I turn up, I skulk in the back of the room, I sit down, I take some notes, I chat to my mates at the end of the class and I go off. Instead, they're coming in and they're saying, here is something for you to really get your teeth into. And it forces students to take the passive learning that they do, whether that's in their preparation, whether it's in their lectures, whether it's in the stuff that is given to them. And it's saying, use it. So it's not simply return it to me, because no simulation that I've come across is simply about regurgitation. Instead, it's about actively processing your knowledge, turning it back, sending it out in a way that engages with other people. So the onus is very much on students. And given that typically in a simulation we're talking about multiple students interacting with each other, we're giving weight to student-centered learning. So we're saying learn from each other. It's not me as the instructor who knows everything telling you, the student who knows nothing. Instead, it's about saying you students know different things. Through this structured interaction, through simulating whatever kind of social phenomenon it is that we are interested in, we are getting a way into your understanding, sharing and building, so that you as a student ultimately get a rewarding and internalized experience in a way that simply isn't possible in more conventional or traditional ways of teaching. So for students, they see the value of their learning, that the disconnect between the classroom and the real world, if we want to put it like that, disappears, because suddenly they see that the classroom is the real world, or it's, in this case, more specifically, a recreation of the real world. But they can start to understand, well, how can I use my knowledge? This is why I learn these things, so that I can put that into effect. And that's a really powerful dynamic. That certainly I get a lot of students come back after they finish their degree and saying, actually, all those things that we learnt in a simulation become very useful. Okay, I'm not actually going to be doing those kinds of specific roles where I'm the head of state, but instead they're still in those situations of social interaction where they understand how they have to work with others, how they have to use their knowledge and apply it to particular situations. So for all those reasons, I think it's really useful for students as much as it is for us.